you were capable of murdering someone simply because you were instructed by a figure of authority? I hope the answer to this would be no. But did you know, in a famous experiment conducted way back in 1963, investigating how people respond to authority, more than 2/3 of people would be willing to. That means that if you aren't, the person sitting to your left and the person sitting to your right could be. Stanley Milgram's famous social psychology experiment was born out of interest in understanding how the Nazis were able to commit the atrocities that they did back in World War II. He was interested in trying to understand why or what people would do simply because a person in a position of authority told them to. He conducted an experiment at Yale University to test his theory. He created an environment that seemingly consisted of 2 participants and an instructor. However, only one of these participants was legitimate. The other participant was a Confederate, and the lab instructor was an actor. The participants were told that they were here to engage in a study investigating the impact of punishment on learning. But in actual fact, the true nature of the experiment was interested in obedience to authority. The 2 participants were put into separate rooms. One participant, the fake one, was the person who was supposed to answer the questions. The real participant was supposed to administer the question and then subsequently punish the Confederate when they got a question wrong. What were these punishments, you may say? Well, they were given a realistic looking electrical box that had volts ranging from 15 all the way up to 450. Now, for reference, a volt of 50 is considered to be dangerous to humans, so they weren't mucking around. The participant was required to read a question to the Confederate, and the Confederate would answer correctly or incorrectly, and this was predetermined. If they answered incorrectly, the participant was required to administer a shock to them and then continue on. Every time they got a question wrong, the shock level went up by 15 volts. Now, Milgram realized that this experiment was kind of super sadistic, and he did a bit of a survey with his colleagues, up and down the corridor like academics do, asking how many of them or what percentage of people did they think would actually go all the way to the end. And the general consensus was about 1% of people, and I'm sure you would probably think the same. The results were shocking. Basically, what Milgram found was that every single participant in the study, all 40 of the male participants, went up to 300 volts at least. When the participant administered the 300 volt, the Confederate was heard to be pounding on the wall, asking for the experiment to stop, and then he would go silent. During this, anytime the participant expressed discomfort or concern, the instructor simply said, "Please continue." The instructor was in a white coat, he seemed legitimate, and so the participants did. 65% of participants went to the maximum level of 450 volts. So what does this mean? The implications of Milgram's research sparked concern about the deceptive nature of the task. These participants truly believed that they were administering painful shocks to the participant, and there wasn't any recourse for this. While the findings of this research were incredible, and it was really important in helping us to understand the social psychology that underpins one's ability to obey authority, it's about the sunk cost. Was it worth it in terms of the deception that these participants had to experience? This seminal research is still being replicated and taught in psychology classes today because of the profound implications of the findings and the impact that it has had on psychological research today.